Hello and welcome back to the Picket Fence Studios YouTube channel. It's Erica with you today, and today we're going to have a look at something from the new release, specifically the Paper Glaze Enhancer. So this is super exciting, I'm not gonna lie, because I'm a huge fan of the paper glazes already. And so this is going to basically take your paper glazes up a whole new level. And I am, as you know, or probably know, a huge fan of the paper glazes. I mean, I already love them. And this stuff is going to blow your mind if you are a paper glaze lover like me. But first things first, let's have a look at the consistency of this. So it's kind of fluffy. It almost looks like whipped mousse kind of thing. It's light and airy, and it really kind of looks like frosting. And then, yeah, I mean, look at that. It's just super good. And once you mix it with your paper glaze, it kind of goes into like a whipped cream formula almost. So we're gonna have a look at that now. We're gonna use Cornflour Blue, which is one of my favorites. So if you look at that up close now, it's kind of, it's like shiny in like a lacquer kind of way. And once you add the Paper Glaze Enhancer to this, it's like, woo. So this is just a sample of what the paper glazes will look like if you just put them down and kind of spread them out and then leave them to dry. So super shiny, and then once it dries, it has a really nice finish. So with the paper glaze, you see there's like a little puddle right there. And then we're gonna take about the same amount of paper glaze. I was a little bit super generous here. So we're gonna try to match that so there's like a 1-to-1 ratio. And then we're gonna put the rest back because I was overly generous right there. So then we're gonna put the lid on all of this as well to make sure that nothing dries out. And then we are going to mush this together. But first, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that you can really see how it looks. And we're gonna go even tighter. There we go. Okay, so there's a little bit of a glare because I'm also using a sheet of acetate to kind of keep things somewhat clean and tidy. And you just mix these together with a spatula or mixed media tool. You can find these also in the Picket Fence Studios shop. So these are super handy, and you can kind of see like that nice texture. So now we're gonna spread this on some white cardstock, and oh, look at that. It's kind of like the Paper Glaze Enhancer, I would say, is almost like somebody kind of added a bit of sand, like super fine sand, and this sand kind of magically removes that shine to give a bit of a, I don't want to say gritty texture because it's not gritty, but it's like super fine sand has been mixed in with the paper glaze. So it's pretty cool actually. And I mean, look at that. I mean, that's just stunning. So you will see that the color, once you've mixed it with the Paper Glaze Enhancer, it goes slightly paler and slightly less vivid than normally. But that's, that's not a problem really because they're already, I mean, they're still really vivid and lovely in color. So now we're going to take a really generous blob here, and we are going to start mixing in some colors and just have a little bit of fun. So this is Pink Carnation. And I realized before I blobbed this on down there that, ooh, yeah, we're very generous. And that was still quite generous. So it doesn't look like it's a 1-to-1 ratio, but I did manage to kind of get that paper glaze on top of the Paper Glaze Enhancer. So it is a fairly 1-to-1 ratio, although the only way to get it exactly is obviously to weigh it. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, who's got time for that in the craft room? So if you just eye it and give it a good kind of, you just have to eye it, basically, yeah. If you add less Paper Glaze Enhancer, it will still add that nice sort of grittiness to it, but it doesn't take away as much shine. So if you want it super matte, you might want to go slightly higher than the 1-to-1 ratio. But I did realize here that, yeah, I have made way way too much. So I got out another couple of stencils and added the pink carnation paper glaze to those as well. And then I went in with peony pink. However, before that, I did split that second lump of Paper Glaze Enhancer. I did split that one in two because I realized from my first round that yes, it made a lot of product. So here we are. We are now going to be using Boysenberry Violet and mixing in that third little section of Paper Glaze Enhancer. And on the black piece with the mermaid stencil, we're going to have a closer look up at that. However, I decided to cut out the footage of the rest of this particular stencil. So we are going to just have a quick look at this up close, and then we're going to set this aside to dry. And I did finish the rest of that pink sunburst stencil, and here I decided to, you know what, I'm just going to remake this card. And this is very similar to the panel that you might have seen in the beginning. But this time we're going to do the whole thing with Paper Glaze Enhancer instead. And I just thought, you know what, this is kind of more cohesive. And I wasn't really sure where I was going with that first one with the pink carnation, the peony pink, and the boysenberry violet. I didn't really feel that it was kind of going in the right direction. So I decided to cut that particular footage out and I went with this one instead. But we will have a look at all of the panels that I made in this video at the end of this. So as you can see here, I am just going around and adding colors around. And I've actually made up a couple of colors as well, just to kind of like make that sort of rainbow more complete. And here is another fun way of stretching your supplies. So before taking your stencil off, print with the paper glaze on top, then remove your stencil, and then you can get a third print from that. So from one session, you can basically get 3 prints. So the last one obviously won't be overly colorful, but it will still be enough to kind of just, you know, for those fun, when you just have like a big word die or something. So there you are. All right, so let's have a look at all of these now that they are nice and dry. And first off is, oh, well, you can see I kind of went to town, but you know, why, when you're on a roll, why stop it, right? So good backgrounds are always good to have. And this one kind of turned out really cool. Even though if you want a smoother color with the like the blend, obviously you'll have to blend that in a little bit better because you can see that it was kind of a little bit blocky there. But oh well, you know, you live and learn. This was my first try with this stencil and the Paper Glaze Enhancer. So obviously there's a bit of a learning curve, but I still like how it turned out. And I kind of like that it's matte rather than shiny for some reason. It just gives a very different look. And you know, whenever I use the paper glazes, I'm so used to it being super shiny, and this just kind of, it just gives you more options, and I really, really like that with my craft supplies. So here is the one with black cardstock, and this is the pink carnation paper glaze mix. So as you can see, it kind of looks white, but it is actually a super, super soft pink. And even though this is a really sort of pastel-y pink, when you mix it with the paper glaze, it turns into this kind of super soft pink. So it's almost like you have to look at it a bit close to in order to see it, which I think kind of gives a bit more of an effect as well. You look at it first and you think, oh, that's white, and then you're like, is it? So this one was a bit of a trial and fail. So I started out by ink blending the stencil on the background with some distress ink, and then I flipped the stencil and added the paper glaze with the Paper Glaze Enhancer. So this is Golden Rose, and Golden Rose on its own looks super, super cool. And as I said, this one I'm not super big fan of. However, I did exactly the same minus the ink blending on the background on this one, and this looks fantastic. That matte gold on the white is so stunning. This would work so well for it would work for congratulations and wedding cards, anniversaries, and all sorts. And as I said, golden rose is one of those must-haves in your paper glaze arsenal, so definitely get that one. And if you like the matte gold, you're definitely going to want to get the paper glaze enhancer as well. But when I was making this one, I thought, you know, I had so much paper glaze left on the stencil, so I actually printed that, so you can see, like, this is like the negative from the stencil, so that's like the actual print, and then that is what is left of it. So this turned out super, super cool. And because I printed this on top, you see I've got that kind of textured, like the veiny texture on there as well, which looks fantastic. So this was a fun experiment that actually worked out really, really well. Whereas I think the one with the black and the ink blending first and then the stencil was an experiment that didn't work out so well. But you live and learn, and this is the fun thing. So these two will definitely be used. And then, okay, so this one is actually a cleanup project. So I had actually done this one first, and I am obsessed with making these ones. So I start out by covering the entire stencil with black. And then on top of that, I add colors. And this just makes them pop on a whole new level. So it just, oh, it's like this almost like gothic stained glass window. And then with that, I had so much paper glaze left on the stencil, so I printed it, so you can see like it's actually the sort of the negative from printing that. But I did clean off the stencil. I didn't clean off the stencil. I pulled the stencil off and then printed. And then I put that stencil back onto white cardstock and put white, snowdrop white with Paper Glaze Enhancer on top of that to kind of draw the color that was left on the stencil into that pattern. And it's like a very different look. So it's not white, and it's not grungy white, but it's just super cool. So this is the panel that you saw me starting out with. So with the pink carnation, the peony pink, and the boysenberry violet. And then I finished off with some other colors, and I'm not super happy with this one color wise, but texture wise it's super cool. And then this is the last few that I made in the video before we hopped into this. So the one on the left is the paper glaze on its own, where it's just been put on, and you can see that it's just super, super nice and shiny. Like, I love that look. And then the one on the right I have done with the Paper Glaze Enhancer. And then this is the print. So this again gives that really cool like veiny texture. Whereas on this one, as you can see, I just put that on and I smoothed it out and then just left it. Then this one is printed from that stencil alone, so not on top of it. Whereas with this one, I took that piece of cardstock, put it on top, printed that while the stencil was still on the original piece, which gives that fantastic texture. And I love these two so much. I think these are probably going to be ending up being like swatches in my craft room, so I can really see just what they look like with paper glaze on its own and paper glaze with the Paper Glaze Enhancer, because it just, yeah, so cool. I love those, super love those. And then we're just gonna have a quick look at these. So these are the two that I printed from the Paper Glaze Enhancer panel, and so we're gonna be swapping these around. There you go. Okay, so the Paper Glaze Enhancer was one, and then the one in the middle was the first print that was done with the stencil that was still on top of the first panel. And as I said, like the Paper Glaze Enhancer just kind of took the whole thing, it made them more liquidy, so I had more time to put that print down. Because you will notice if you just use the paper glaze on its own, they do dry so fast, although you get that shiny look. With the enhancer, you get so many more options, and you also get a little bit more time to kind of work with your project. But that's it from me for today. I really hope you've enjoyed this and all the different samples I made. And don't forget to subscribe to the Picket Fence Studios YouTube channel for more tutorials. Bye now.